Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader podcast. I am pleased to bring you a great guest here today, Trey Curtis, who's the CEO and owner of Concept AgriTek down there in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Man, Trey, thanks for making the time to be on here with me.
Hey, thanks, Mark.
This is a an impactful season that we're putting together here, getting all these different CEOs from different types of companies from around the ag industry, and I'm sure this is going to be just a great resource for people to listen into today. Trey, talk to me a little bit about your take on intentional leadership. What does it mean for you to be intentional?
Yeah, so leadership to me is mostly by example, and that's the way I've already always kind of handled my leadership roles. I'll never ask somebody to do something I wouldn't do, and for me, whether that's when we were getting started driving a forklift or making a delivery, 400 miles away, middle of the night, or even before when I was on the farm doing the shoveling instead of doing the tractor driving, to me,
Yeah.
and I learned that a lot from my dad. He was that way. And his leadership skills were, hey, I'm going to do the grunt work. And that sets the example for everybody else. So for me,
Yeah.
and our team, work ethic is a big thing. I mean, everybody works as a team and they work hard. And to me, all of our leaders, our president, our head of sales, even our CFO, and they all work really hard and they set the example of working really hard. And to me, that's intentional. It's not
Mhm.
delegating and delegating and delegating. It's getting out there working and showing everybody what leadership really is.
Yeah. Fantastic answer. Thank you for that. I want to dive into that just a little bit too. Talk about being the chief of a company that's growing. We were just talking off the call a little bit about the growth that you guys are experiencing, bringing on more people. You can't always be the guy who does get in the forklift and does go do the delivery 400 miles away when you're leading an organization that's scaling, right?
Correct.
When was the moment when you had to sort of let go of that identity a little, or start to let go of some of those things so that you can focus on being the strategic leader, which is what your people need?
Yeah, Mark, it happened about 4 years ago. We had, we didn't have a big group. There was just a handful of us, but we spent a lot of time, money, and effort on product development. And we finally had that portfolio of products and technologies now that we were developing and manufacturing there in Charleston to where it was time to switch to sales. And when we did that, we started spending more on marketing. We found out really quick is that there's not enough time in the day for us to make all the deliveries and do all that. So we bought semis and hired a lot of people in the warehouse and brought in a warehouse manager and just really started letting go and the one thing we've always, and I mentioned work ethic, that's huge to us, is when we hire someone we really are um, ask them a ton of questions and do a lot of background checking on work ethic and personality because at the end of the day those are the two things I can never teach anybody. I can't teach you how to work ethic, and I can't teach you how to have a good personality and work well with not only the customers but with your coworkers and
Yeah.
and really being part of a team. And that's the thing that the culture that we built around here. It's work ethic, it's personality, but boy, it's a team effort, and that's what's really exciting about it. But yeah, the growth has been just astronomical, and we keep adding people, and even the people that used to do all the delivery now they don't even have time to do the deliveries and things like that, and so it's gotten to be a lot of fun. And just this year we added a director of operations down at Charleston who just started 2 weeks ago, and now we're coordinating everything into specific teams. So
Mhm.
every division will have separate teams in there focusing on specific things from logistics to, jugging machine to bulk to totes to tote washing to, inventory management, uh, quality control, and on and on and on. So we've gotten so big now that we're actually subdividing every in each division and getting way more organized than we've been in the past. So
Yeah. Good for you. Well, congrats on the growth and making those moves. I know it's, as a founder myself, right? It's tough to sometimes recognize like you don't get to be the guy in the front of the room anymore. You don't get to be the guy doing that delivery anymore. In fact, we recently put somebody in charge of program delivery, in our business, which, we're a small team, but it just gets to be like, hey, where is Mark's time best allocated?
Yeah,
As the leader. And I think regardless of whether you're the founder or the VP or a manager, I think you should always be looking for ways to duplicate yourself.
sure.
Because at some point you will be called to a higher level of leadership if you're good at it. And as it says in the good book, right? A tree by its fruit.
Yeah,
I think, at least in my organization, that's what I'm looking for. Are the trees producing good fruit? Could we scale if we had a big injection of capital and we needed to go? Where are we going to get people from?
right. Yeah,
That
absolutely. And yeah, we work really hard at training our folks up, and we've been able to promote from within in a lot of
yeah.
situations. Our president was our first full-time employee, and
Mm-hmm.
our main sales manager, Mark Glassstetter, started off as an intern. Our director of finance was a part-time secretary, part-time financial person for us. So it's been fun to watch them grow and then
Yeah.
watch them lead, and that's really cool. And they're doing it almost identical to the same way I did it. So it tells me we're it's kind of like a good sports team. They teach them, and you watch them move up, and you talk about Nick Saban's coaching tree or Bill Belichick's coaching tree. It's the same thing in business. You bring these assistant coaches up, and they may be a sales guy, they may be an intern, but you see that what I want to say, their potential, and then
Mm-hmm.
you build on that, and you get them the training, and you get them the leadership, and then again you set by example. Nothing that I won't do that they won't do that now the guy below them won't do. So
Yeah.
it's so much fun to watch that too. It's fun to have a business grow, but it's great to watch families grow. And Mark wasn't even married when he came to work. Now he's got two kids. They're doing all kinds of sports, and Daniel's kids were young, and now one of them actually works for us. He came on he graduated college, and he's a research agronomist for us. And it's fun to watch the families grow inside of our organization as well.
Yeah. How rewarding. That's very
Oh,
cool. Yeah, absolutely. So, what parts of your culture? I'm hearing, things about work ethic. We're looking for work ethic, personality, people who are willing to, effectively pick up the pitchfork and help out when needed. What's really important for you to maintain in your culture as you grow? Because I know it's one thing a lot of leaders are challenged with is A, how do you get culture to be how you want it to begin with? And then B, how do you scale that culture as you do grow?
right. A lot of it, and one of our big things is moral character.
Mm.
Because hey, we've had a few people that didn't quite have the moral character that set up for us, and a lot of us are Christians, and we don't necessarily make everyone be a Christian by any means. That's for
So it'd be
church,
okay if you did. I'm
but,
not.
but but we do set by example, and that's very important. And when we hire, we watch for those kind of things, that moral character. Doesn't mean we're perfect in hiring, but if you have the moral character, hey, that person's going to treat this company like he would treat his own, or her. She's going to treat it like her own. And so that's a big deal when we start, and we do that by example of it. It was great. We had our Christmas party the other day, and so this is our when I started the company by myself, it was just me in a truck for like 2 years, and then hired a couple of people, Mark and Julie. And our first Christmas party, there were 6 people, and that was 11 years ago. And this one we had right at 100. And
Wow.
and I tell the story about our first Christmas party, and I tell the story about me and Mark, filling up totes, and our warehouse had a dirt floor. I mean, it was, and more
Yeah.
mice in it than we had actual, soybeans, and we were selling beans at the time. And
Yeah.
but one of them, really, he sent me a text the next morning. He goes, "Hey, I really appreciate y'all saying a prayer, because
Mm.
we say a prayer before we eat and all that at every meeting, every dealer meeting, every customer meeting, every meeting we have." And it's amazing how many people reach out and go, "Hey, I really appreciate your company doing that, because a lot of the big companies, well, they won't do that anymore. And to us, that's a really big deal as well, is making sure we have a good moral compass.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know, my wife and I have been talking about that recently within our own businesses and in our family business too, right? Which is, you know, what is that North Star? We know it's kingdom focused. And what is that purpose? What's that thing that we keep, that common thread, right? That we come back to when we do find ourselves getting off track, because that's going to happen. You know, that's going to happen. You know, we're going to get tempted and challenged and all those things along the way. What is that? So I love that idea of the moral compass, right? It's that moral character. That's cool. I mean, so going from the dirt floor to 100 people at your Christmas party, what's been one of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
It is the growth. It is just how do you handle it? You know, every year our marketing, we outsource our marketing, and every year I have to. The marketing team comes in with a budget, and I go, "Hey, y'all need to scale it back a bit," you know, just because I always I make a lot of sports references, but we don't want to outpunt our coverage. And I think last year we grew at 50%. The year before that we grew a little more than that. Right now we're up already 67% in orders, you know, and the year before that we were up another 60 some odd percent. So the growth has been ridiculous, and we want to make sure, because we're high touch. We get very in depth in soil testing and tissue testing, and really sitting down with the grower and making sure we're making the right recommendation before we sell them anything. Right? We're not product focused whatsoever. You know, we have a million times people come by the booth and say, "Well, give me what are your top 3 products?" Well, that's depends on your soils and depends on what you want to do. So for us to be able to grow and still be high touch, it's a challenge, but we've been able to hire a lot of good people. We've hired a lot of agronomists too. We have about 1 agronomist for every 3 sales reps. So that tells you how high touch we are.
Wow. Yeah.
So doing that, and then in the production capabilities of being able to handle that, and logistics too, because logistics is a heck of a challenge and getting tougher all the time. And so we just increased our production capacity by about 5x this year with a major increase in production. But the one thing we did notice is, even though we can produce it, we can't get it there fast enough. So we're strategically in the off season have put in 3 warehouses so far strategically, and looking for 2 more, so that we can put product in the warehouses, distribute it out from there. And then that way we don't have somebody from, you know, North Dakota saying, "Hey, I need some product tomorrow morning." And it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now we have a warehouse in South Dakota. We can handle that, you know, same way with Maryland or Ontario or wherever it may be. So
Sure. Yeah. That's fantastic. And as growth, logistics. You know, you and I are talking a little bit about this, you know, around my business on the front end of this. You know, what's the right application of your thing so that you can actually and still have the efficacy, right?
correct.
Yeah. How do you get it there? How many people does that take? How many warehouses does that take? Right? Where are the regional centers? I mean, that's so many big questions. How much of that gets driven by you? Do you delegate that out to your team? I'm just curious how that, do you hire consultants for that? Just curious how you make those decisions.
Yeah, on a lot of things we've started hiring consultants specifically with IT and some other things like that. That's been real helpful. But like on the warehousing and things like that, I got a great team. I'm starting to take a few hats off, which is nice. Seems like I take a couple hats off, I grab a couple new ones. But you know, they really sat down and went over with the sales team and regional managers, and really the logistics coordinators, and really found out strategic places to put warehouses. That was the biggest thing. And luckily, all I had to do was just say, okay, you know, that was a great plan. So right now we're doing a big project, because we put in all that infrastructure on production, but it's all run by iPads and computers. We didn't have enough. We didn't have a fiber cable coming in there, so it was starting to overload our internet. Now we have to run fiber in there, so it's always, you know, growth like that's always something you weren't expecting. You know,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
would ever think your internet connection would slow your production of fertility down? Not me, but it
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. I think one of the big challenges everybody has in growth is there's the stuff, you know, right? And there's the stuff that we know, that because you know your business, you know your products, you know your customers. the thing. You're creating a product or a service that solves a problem or a need that they have, and you know how to do that. You don't sit around and think about fiber optic cable.
Yeah.
It's
Or
just
do I want to?
just things that are just like, really, really, God, is this what the problem I'm gonna have to solve today? Is figure out how to get fast enough internet to but that's a real, especially in rural America, certain parts of rural America, that's a big issue, right? It's just getting enough connectivity to be able to run the data heavy industry that we're in. So anyway, Trey, one of the things I'm trying to get at here is, as people are listening to this today, is as you grow a business, as you scale a business, and you're the leader of that business, there's a lot of things you got to let go, right?
Yeah,
And a lot of people really struggle with the letting go part.
sure.
I've talked about this with a number of people on this podcast, and so I'd love your advice on how do you get your ego out of the way enough so that you can let go of that thing. Because at some point, it was your idea, it was your baby, you thought about that, you know exactly how you want it done, right? But the reality
Yeah.
is, for it to get done effectively, we got to let somebody else do it. So how do you let go?
So, a lot of it is, and it's not rocket science. It's hiring the right people and then getting faith and trust in them. And one of the things that I've done since I've started was, of course, I did all the pricing. Well, then we brought a CFO in who's done a phenomenal job to help, dial in, making sure it's more detailed, making sure we have all our costs in there associated, that we're making the right price. You know, are we charging the right amount for that product?
Mm-hmm.
And but then turning that over this year, after literally 13 years of doing it, was a little bit nerve wracking. But I'll give our management crew, I let basically Mark Glastetter, who was that intern that started with us, over 11 years ago. He took it by the bull by the horns, worked with our CFO, worked with our president, our regional manager, and I mean, knocked it out of the park. And then I watched as we had some pricing adjustments go down actually this year, which was kind of cool. And they made the right decision, like, hey, let's go ahead and pass this along to the customer because it makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
and so we actually had some prices go down here in the last month or so. So,
Yeah.
it's fun to watch, but it is tough because it is your baby, and you want to make sure there's not any mistakes. But again, if you surround yourself with really good people and you trust those people and you spend a lot of time with those people, then it's a lot easier than if I brought someone that from outside that I didn't know and just threw them right in there. Yeah, I'd have a pretty tough time with that. So, to me, it's not ego. I'm not that type of person. I always told Mark and Daniel, say, hey, if we ever get big and my ego ever start, you make sure you let me know, because that's
Yeah.
not the kind of person I am. I want to stay humble and and make sure that I stay entrenched in our business, but stay grounded. And I hope they all do as well, because a lot of these guys are doing phenomenal in life, and they need to do the same thing. They need to stay humble. They need to stay focused and continue to work hard.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, with Mark and Daniel in mind, who do you surround yourself with to help keep you humble, push your vision, grow yourself? What's your method for that? Because the old saying is, you become the average of the five people you spend the most time
Well, number one, my wife, she can
with.
humble me in a minute. So,
I think there's a lot of us that can tell that story. Yeah.
but yeah, she's absolutely fantastic. But obviously, my main group of managers, the ones specifically that have known me for a while, but also, I've got some friends and a consultant here that I confide in a lot, that have really helped me out, to help improve our business and do it the right way, but also to make sure that I'm improving myself. And
Sure.
whether that's doing Bible study and here at my office, or if that's just sitting down with some local business owners and bouncing things off their heads, and same kind of way, is you realize, hey, you're not the only guy here that's doing these things, you know. And so don't get cocky, don't let it go to your head, and stay grounded. And if it ever and when or if that ever has happened, and I don't think it has, but I promise you, between my main guys and my wife, they'll make sure that I'm staying the straight and narrow for sure.
You bet. You bet. Yeah, yeah, that's been a big part of my growth over the last decade for sure has been finding people. Certainly have, the people that I live with. I've got the people that I'm closest to in the business, and getting outside the immediate circle to help have people help me expand the vision, think a little bit differently, or think a little bit bigger, or sometimes smaller, because that's been
Yeah.
necessary too. You know, and yeah, that's a big component. So uh, it sounds like faith plays a big part in your role. Would you mind, just sharing a little bit about how you mentioned Bible study and brought it up a couple different ways over the course of the last 25 minutes or so. So just curious, would love to give you a platform to talk about how important that is for you and in your business creation.
Well, me, God's number one, family's number two, and then friends number three, and business number four. To be honest with you, that's the way I was raised, and that's the way I'll always be, and
Yeah.
that's what we talk about internally as well. Is without God, we don't have anything. I can sit here and pat myself on the back all I want to about how successful our business is, but I can tell you right now, without Him, I could be somewhere just digging a ditch or driving a tractor. Because I have been extremely blessed and fortunate to be where I'm at today, and luckily I made a really terrifying move when I left one of the major strategic companies and started my own, and
Mhm.
nothing but with a, a half-ton pickup truck that I put on 72-month financing at 0% just to make sure I could make the electric payment, and a $2,000 trailer and a dirt floor, warehouse, and so it was a heck of a gamble. But without him, none of this would have been possible. And then, and number two, without the support of my wife, I mean, if she hadn't given me the okay to say, hey, leave that really fantastic job as a regional manager for one of the major companies, and actually on the fast track to continue to move up the ladder. But hey, we're just going to stop all of that, and we're just going to start a new business from scratch.
Yeah.
But without her support, I had a 1 year old and a 3 year old at that time. So it
Mm.
wasn't like it was just me and her, and she had a great paying job. She was a stay at home mom raising two, infants, and so it was a big gamble. But luckily the good Lord, my wife, got me through it. And then just being at the right time, when having Mark Glaster, become an intern for me, and now he's one of our top regional managers in the company, and doing a lot of other things even higher than that. And then first person I hired full time, and Daniel Hensley, I just happened to meet him out on the farm when I was trying to sell him some fertilizer, and he was one of the agronomists for a major potato company. I'm like, he does a great job of explaining to me how a potato grows, because I had no idea. He would be fantastic at teaching, our customers. And and lo and behold, after that, I think it was a month later, he called up and said, hey, you happen to be, looking at hiring anybody? I was like, you're not going to believe this, but I literally was talking to two of my friends about hiring people, and we're looking at if I could afford to hire somebody. So, and
Uh-huh.
then Julie Steele, who's our director of finance, I literally moved in right beside her and her husband Rick, and she was a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, hey, if you ever have any time and our business starts to get bigger, do you think you can help me with QuickBooks occasionally? And she goes, oh, I can, but maybe 10, 15 hours a
Mm.
week. And then the kids get bigger, and then she becomes director of finance, and she's working 60, 70 hours a week. So it's amazing how God's put a lot of the most influential people around me. It
Yeah.
wasn't me, it was him, and so, to me, that's very important.
Hmm. I found all those times in life when I have been following my own guidance around everything. Those are the times I had to work the hardest. But when I start to surrender to a greater vision, right, and really create my business as a vehicle to influence people and let my work be my worship, I mean, like the most amazing people pop in, whether it's customers at the right time, that payment that comes at just the right time, the people that have shown up to be on my team at just the right time. I mean, it's I'm right there with you. So I appreciate you sharing that because it's so cool to hear a true founder story and really get to hear from the ground up. How many years has it taken from the beginning when you started to where you guys are at now?
So we're starting our 14th year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
So
that's an important thing for people to get because there may be somebody driving along the road listening to this right now thinking like, man, Trey's got it all together. These guys, man, they're crushing. He's got a 100-person company. I'm going to start that tomorrow and be there in 6 months. Like, guys, that's not how it works, right?
not
Like,
not
a
not at
lot of,
all. There was a
yeah,
lot of sleepless nights about, are we going to make payroll this month? We better get
yeah,
out there and collect some AR so that we can make payroll. And
yeah,
we've been very conservative, but we grew it from the ground up. We grew it from the farmer focus. We grew it from products and technologies that separated us. And
hmm,
and we grew at a modest growth the first 9 years.
yeah,
But then once we had everything in line and we had our own manufacturing, we had our own technologies that made us unique, and we knew how to apply them, and we had the right people in place, then it was all right. Now let's really hit sales and marketing, and that's where we've really done the last 4 years is really focus in on that while still creating new technologies. We've got a new technology we're launching this year, and then we have two more in the pipeline, and working on about 4 or 5 patents right now. So we've got a lot of stuff going on and moving into new countries, and
yeah,
really getting to where this thing is. We thought the last 4 years were pretty good. I think the next 4 years are going to be even better. So
yeah,
it's pretty exciting.
yeah. I love it, man. It's such a great story. And we talk in our intention toolbox. We talk about the the law of exponentials, right? And so I do this with my kids once in a while, or I've done it with all my kids now at this point. Where you ask them, would you, if I give you $10,000 in your bank account today, put that in your savings today, or give you a penny a day, doubled every day for 30 days, which one of those are you going to take, right? And of course, when we make our immature decision, everybody wants the 10 grand up front, not a penny. But if you're willing to wait 30 days, right, that penny doubling every day for 30 days turns into a couple $1,000,000, right? And
That's right.
so, but it takes a minute and it doesn't look like much at the beginning, right? And the doubling
Right.
doesn't really, so you think about that, $2 million over 30 days. That means on day 29, it's only 1 million, right? On day 28, right, it's only 500,000. And you
Yeah.
can work the problem backwards from there, right? So, uh, I cite that because when we think about the law of exponentials always works as long as you're willing to stick it out and keep making good, diligent decisions every day. I mean, you're going to lose a lot, right?
Sure.
You might only have a close rate of 30% if let's say you're a salesperson, or somebody on your team. If you are a sales leader and you got someone who's struggling, like they might only have a close rate of 20, 30% because they're green, they're new, whatever. But if they just stick it out and keep doing that and focusing on the 2 out of the 10 instead of the 8 out of the 10,
Yeah.
um, over time, eventually you get to year 9, like you guys did, right? And then it starts to tick up a little bit, right? And then year 10 and year 11. And you now look at it, go. And that's how exponentials work. And they apply to every single behavior, they apply to every part of your business. If you just are willing to be with it and just keep trying
Yeah.
long enough. And that's powerful intention comes in those moments when most people quit.
And that's a great point. Either they quit or they get impatient, and then they make a bad decision that
Mm-hmm.
gets them in financial trouble. And I will say, again, having Julie Steele's fantastic because she is very conscious of our financials and all that, and I'm a little more aggressive. She's always the one kind of holding me back. Hey, why don't
Yeah.
we not spend that this year? Why don't we not do that? You're like, yeah, you're right. So it's always good to have those people too, because I'm ready to roll and run and take off 90 miles an hour, but it's always good to have those people as your checks and balances.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you're exactly right. If you're impatient, or you just quit, you may miss out.
Mm-hmm. Well, to reference the part of our conversation around who do you surround yourself with, it's important to have those people that have a little bit of experience or see it from a different angle than you do, and give those people permission on your team to say, "Hey, Mark, hey Trey, like I think that's going to be a bonehead move. You might want to rethink that one. You might do it anyway." And I've
Well,
done that plenty of
that's
times,
happened too. Trust
but
me, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
that's right. That's right. So cool, man. Well, this has been a fun conversation, Trey. It's been really cool learning from you, to the other founders, maybe people just getting started. Maybe I'm an employee, just kind of listening in, trying to learn what it takes to be a good leader in agribusiness. What last advice would you lend?
Yeah. Again, I go by how I started. Set by example. I mean, there's no replacement for working hard and having great character. Don't ever think you're too big. I mean, every time I go to the warehouse, I talked about everybody in the warehouse, every forklift driver, everybody, all the secretaries and all that. Everybody comes to work every day for the company. And anytime you end up overlooking them, thinking you're too big, thinking you're too important, you're really missing out on what is really important in life, and that's people. And making sure you surround yourself with good people, but also treat them like fantastic people, like family. And that's what we talk about all the time, except we do it, we don't just talk about it. And so, with that, that would be my advice, hard work ethic and treat everybody like you'd want to be treated.
Love it. Great advice, man. Thanks for being on here today. Appreciate it.
All right, Mark, thank you.